students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm streaming to you live from beautiful Budapest. I hope everybody has had a great week and is looking forward to a fantastic weekend ahead. In this class, we are looking at IELTS Task 1 Writing for the academic version of the exam. Specifically, we will be looking at a process diagram. I'll show you that right now. It looks like this, and it will be cheese production. Cheese production, exciting times. Before we get to that, a little bit of a preamble. Of course, as many of you know, around the world right now, it's Black Friday, and to celebrate Black Friday discounts, we're joining in on the party. You can go to our websites, aehelp.com for academic IELTS. I'll show you that in one moment. And gieltshelp.com for the general version of the exam. And you can use the code BLKFDAY for a 40% discount off of our premium package. That's the best deal that we have all year. Again, if you go, this is our academic website at aehelp.com. You click that red button, join now, to get the premium package. I'll kind of guide you through this so you know what's going on. You get to the checkout form. No, Roshni, the coupon does not work for writing correction or speaking classes. So those are services which require professionals' time, and so we can't provide codes for that. But we can for our premium package. You click this use coupon code at the top here, and then you enter in Black Friday. Now we do use geo pricing, so in India the course would be much cheaper because the base price is 25 US. In Hungary it's 49 US for base price. So you can see here with the 40% discount. In Hungary it's $29.40. I think in India and countries that have lower economies, the price would be $15 US, $15 US with that code. So check it out. The general version of the website looks like this with the green background. Suda, good, cool. You've used the code. I'm reading that now. It's fantastic. So this is the general version of the website. Same thing, same code. You can use it there. Okay. Suda, I think you used a different code if you got it for 22. Anyway. It's still an excellent bang for buck value for dollars. So, all right, students. So that's our Black Friday discount. Of course, you can also download our app, Academic IELTS Help. Marasa, you are welcome. Thank you for the appreciation. If you have questions about our products, about the exam, don't be shy. Just send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. and I will get back to you. Hi, Eugene. Always appreciate those happy emojis to set the mood for the class. Okay, everyone, so let's get into IELTS Task 1, today's target, without further ado. Okay. NA, we do not accept Amex. We accept MasterCard, Visa, but not Amex. Okay. All right. So IELTS Task 1 Writing. Let's take a look at this. You should spend about 20 minutes on this task. Again, practice your timing at home. Don't go over 20 minutes, okay? So only spend 20 minutes. The following diagram shows the steps required in the making of cheese. I don't know about you, but I personally love cheese. Many different kinds of cheese. It's an exciting topic. Summarize the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, and then here we have, I'll shrink it down a bit so maybe we can get all of it in there. In one eye glance, there we go. So there is the look at the diagram. Is that clear? Maybe I'll make it a little bit darker for us. There we go. All right. All right. So there is our diagram for today. There's clearly a left and a right side to this process. Okay, what do we do first, students? So what do we do? We've looked at the question, we've read it. How do we start this? What do we do with it? And you have to write at least 150 words. Just so most of you are aware, band 7 to 9, task 1, essays are usually between 180 to 220 words, okay? They're more than the minimum. 150 is the absolute minimum. So if you're looking for that band 7 or more, you should be thinking closer to 180 to 200 words. Okay, so Marasa says, let's paraphrase this and add some more information. By the way, Marasa, your essays that you're sending, they're looking fantastic, and I'd have to say that they're closer to an 8 these days than a 7.5, so good for you. NA says, first we should paraphrase, and Roshni completes the answer by saying, paraphrase with details. Add some more details. Yeah, absolutely. So let's do that. So let's paraphrase this statement and give more details. All right, you do that, I'll do that, and that is the first part of the overview. So task 1 has 3 paragraphs, 2 short, 1 long. Okay, overview. Do it this way. Overview, which is about 2 to 3 sentences. Analyses, which is roughly 8 to 10 sentences. And then, of course, a summary, if you have time, and you're looking for those high band 8, band 9s, and that's 1 to 2 sentences. Okay, roughly about 14 to 18 sentences total. Okay. All right, and the overview, as I just mentioned, and as some of you know, the overview is the introduction. I think some students really get confused with, I need to write an introduction and an overview. No. In an expository essay like this one, overview is the introduction. MD Shamim, I'm not sure what you're thanking me for, but you're welcome. All right, so overview has 2 parts, okay? The overview has a paraphrase of the question with more detail, plus the most observable feature. Okay, so that's what we're going to write now. So here, the following diagram. What kind of a diagram is this? It's a process diagram. Okay, it's a process diagram. What type of a process diagram is it? It's a process diagram for manufacturing cheese. Ganesh, you cannot take your own headphones for the listening section. Okay, all right. So this process diagram shows the now here we could count. So if we're giving detail, we can count the process. Okay, so we have pasteurization, that's 1 process. We have filtration, that's 2. Okay. We have fermenting, 3. Coagulation, 4. Okay. Cutting, stirring, 5, 6. Draining, 7. milling, salting, 8, 9, pouring into molds, pressing, 10, 11. It's good to do that. It's good to go over each of these steps so you really know what you're looking at. Okay, and then ripening, 12. So roughly 12 steps to this process, right? Tulasi Goad, I'm super happy that you're visualizing. That's one of the most important strategies for success. Critical thinking, visualization, and paraphrasing are the three main steps to success on the IELTS exam. All right, so the process diagram shows the roughly, and again, you don't have to have exact figures and numbers in task one, you just have to be fairly precise. So this process diagram shows the roughly 12 different steps involved in the manufacturing of cheese. Okay, so that's my paraphrase with some more information. So I don't just write this diagram. And here I said shows. Here it says shows. There are lots of different ways to say shows. So let's remove or replace that word. Diagrams are pictures, so they depict. Okay, the process diagram depicts, because it's one, depicts the roughly 12 different steps involved in the manufacturing of cheese. Now I have paraphrasing, detail, and I'm looking good for the overview. Golnaz says we could also use the word illustrates there. Absolutely, Golnaz. We could use the word illustrates. It's another very accurate term for showing when you have a picture. Okay, excellent. Good job, students. So far, so good. Roshni says the blueprint exhibits the 12 different types of processes required for manufacturing cheese. Roshni, that's a band 9 start to your essay. It's fantastic. Ajit says the picture represents the significant processes. You can count processes, Ajit. So the significant processes required for the production of cheese. Okay, that's good, Ajit. It's good. Taylor Reese says, in this process of making cheese on an industrial scale, 12 different steps are presented. Taylor, a little bit of correction, okay? Moria, the process diagram shows the steps needed for the production of cheese. Not bad, okay? Paraphrase a little bit more, Moria. Give a little bit more detail if possible. All right. Let's see. Hassan says the diagram depicts the phases of cheese production. It is a linear man and machine made process, which includes 11 stages. The final product is a round of cheese. These are called rounds of cheese, by the way, students. Of course, looking at the shape, it's a round of cheese. All right. So everybody's on the right track by the look of it. There are different ways to go about it. All right. And Prabjot Kaur is asking, can we use rendered or consigned after the name of the diagram? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, Prabjot. You'd have to give me an example sentence. Okay. Amarjit, that's good for your first sentence as well. The process diagram illustrates information about the manufacturing of cheese in 12 steps. Very good. Okay, so now we're not done the overview yet. We have to identify the main feature. So what is the mostly observable feature of this diagram? So what do we notice when we look at this? There should be some clear information here. So what do we need to say about this? What's the most observable? Okay. Ohi Bunny, the rendered process chart. Nah, it's not important. You don't need to write rendered. It's awkward. Sachin says, well, definitely milk. We need some milk to make cheese. Yes, absolutely. Milk is important, so we need milk. We need machines, very good. So Quang Nguyen says a lot of work is done by machines on this industrial scale. So we have milk, we have machines. What else do we have? Taylor says we need a cow, but Taylor, don't put information there that's not visible in the diagram. So we don't see cows, so please don't write about cows, like milking the cows, okay? So use of machines, definitely. There are several machines involved in the process. It's a very obvious feature, right? You see machine, 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 machine. So that's definitely clear. So we need milk, we need machines, we need enzymes. Yeah, we have that as well. So we see these microorganisms, these ripening enzymes, okay? So we need microorganisms, milk, machines, and what? What else do you notice there that we need? Said fermentation, ripening. There's a little bit of salt going on there as well, right? We don't see people. I don't know why a lot of you are writing people. We don't have people visible in this picture. There's no people. So I wouldn't write people. Again, students, don't write information that you don't see in the diagram. You don't see manpower. What do you see here? And again, if you follow through this whole piece, you can kind of get that same idea as well. Yeah, there we go. Ayush Gautam says, and you need some time, right? It takes time to make cheese. Okay. All right, so let's put that together in a nice sentence for the overview. Okay, so again, the overview starts with this process diagram depicts the roughly 12 different steps involved in the manufacturing of cheese. Immediately, it can be deduced. Deduced means understood. That the making of cheese on an industrial scale requires milk, microorganisms, salt, machines, and time. Okay. That's what I would write for my overview. When you're looking at a diagram, especially a diagram like this one, look at what's needed. Okay? So what do you need for this process? That's your main feature. Okay? Clearly the machines, okay? Clearly the milk, and clearly time. Okay? This is not a 1, 2, 3 process and you're done. Okay? So again, when you're looking at a process diagram, for your overview, think about what is needed for this process to go from start to finish. And that's going to be your main feature. Okay? Yeah, Baral, sure. It's a need. So Baral is asking, is it okay to write machines with raw materials like milk? Yeah. You need the milk and the machines just the same. Just because the machine is not organic doesn't mean you can make the cheese without it. That's why we wrote on an industrial scale. Prince Pathak says, at a glance. Or a glance. Okay, okay, Prince, I'll go with what you're writing. So Prince Patak says, a glance at the process delineates machinery, milk, along with microorganisms in order to make cheese with the passage of time. So not bad, Prince. The beginning was okay. A couple of slight corrections there to finish your ideas with correct grammar. Okay. Hassan says, overall, it is clear that producing cheese needs 4 essential elements, namely milk, microorganisms, salt, and time. Okay. Yeah, Hassan, not bad. I would say one of the essential elements here are machines when it's an industrial scale. But you're right, Hassan, on a small scale, you could do without machines. You would still need those other elements, so it's arguable. But in this picture, it is an industrial process. So, and he says the industrial production setup requires the use of milk, extensive machinery, salt, enzymes, and time. Good. And you don't have to have all of the exact same details, students. So if you have enzymes, microorganisms, or just one or the other, you're still going to get a nice high band score as long as it's clear what you're saying. Okay? All right. Info MP says it's clearly a long process. Info, I might save that for the summary, stating that it's clearly a long process. Okay. All right, Anitha says the process begins with raw milk and the help of machines, microorganisms, and time. The end product is round cylindrical cheese. All right, Anitha, not bad. Don't write begins with, just the process requires raw milk, and with the help of machines, microorganisms, and time, the end product is cylindrical cheese. That's a good overview finish, okay, as well. So good job, students. Doing some really good work. I think a lot of you who are following these classes regularly are really starting to click on how this information processing and reporting works for this expository essay. Okay, good. All right, so again, this is my overview. This process diagram depicts the roughly 12 different steps involved in the manufacturing of cheese. Immediately, it can be deduced that the making of cheese on an industrial scale requires milk, microorganisms, salt, machines, and time. Fantastic. Now I can go to my body paragraph. My body paragraph is my analyses as well. I need about 8 to 10 sentences most, okay? And here, before I begin to write, I want to definitely take a careful look again at the diagram, all right? So, here's the diagram one more time. Now, be careful, okay? It's quite a complex diagram. It's easy to get lost here. So we don't want to do that. We want to go nice and clear, step by step, writing a cohesive, coherent essay. Okay. Here we start with this part. Okay, so here we have raw milk, and here we have most cheese making, and then here we have traditional cheese making. So right away, in a process essay, your points are very clear because you start at the beginning, and then you go through the different steps all the way until you get to the end, of course. Now, sometimes in these diagrams, and you do see this on the IELTS exam, there's a divergence, okay? So you have an arrow going this way, and then you have arrow going this way. So you have most cheese making and traditional cheese making. When you have this separation, right away, you should be thinking of a correlative conjunction. What correlative conjunction is very useful in this scenario? Okay, now notice how this way we come back to this coagulation and curdling, and in this direction we also come to this coagulation and curdling. So there's actually two different correlative conjunctions that you can use for your first sentence. Very good. So Marasa says either or. Kwang Nguyen says either or. Roshni says either or. Yeah, either or. And what's the other one that could work for you here? If you're not using either or, there's another good one that works here. Okay. So use the information in the diagram. Don't overcomplicate. You don't have to write all of this information. That would be too much. So either or is one of the correlative conjunctions that might work really well here. There's another one that could work really well. Firstly, and to begin with, those are leading expressions. Correlative conjunctions are the paired conjunctions, like both and, not only but also, either or, neither nor. And there's another really nice one that you could use here, which would definitely help bump up your band score. Anybody picking up my lead? No. Nope, I still don't see it. It starts with a W. Next letter is an H. The second half of it is or. The same, so it's either or, not whereas, Preeti, Tamang, but you're close. Not alternatively, not neither. Whether or, okay, whether. There you go, Ryuk Gil has got it. Yeah, it's whether. Whether or, so there's two ways that you could write this. So to start, cheese either is pasteurized before enzymes are added in the coagulation process, or made traditionally and used directly in the coagulation curdling process. Okay? And then the other way that you could write it is whether cheese, and this is where whether is a little bit easier, you'll notice. So sometimes if either or seems difficult, whether or might be the easier conjunction. So whether cheese is made in the traditional method or, as most cheese today, it is eventually processed in coagulation. Okay, and this is a tub or a bath. All right. So whether or, either or, both of those would work well to express this first part of the process, all right? You can go into more details, write more sentences if you have quick writing skills and explain the standardization and filtration, the Rennet enzyme that's added in for coagulation, but careful not to get lost in too many details or you will run out of time. Okay, so careful with that. All right, so write the first sentence, students. I'm going to do the same. I'll write this first piece, starting with the raw milk, most cheese making, pasteurization, filtration, enzyme curdling, or traditional cheese making directly into the curdling and coagulation. Okay, obviously, fermenting microorganisms are added to this mixture. Okay, the adding in this case is called inoculation, just like in medicine, inoculation. Okay, so write that first sentence. Don't try to be perfect. Okay, don't waste too much time. Just get it done. I'll do the same. All right. Let's do this. Pasteurized. Make sure you don't misspell words that are included in the diagram. Okay, so initially raw milk is either pasteurized and standardized, or in the original method, directly used in coagulation. Again, use the diagram to get these words correct. Coagulation, it's not like I write these words every day. Coagulation is a type of condensing of the milk. All right. Again, you don't have to overdo it. You're not writing a science paper for university, okay? You just have to be accurate. Okay. Ajit says, in the first glance, the diagram depicts that raw milk is processed by traditional or pasteurization means. Careful not to repeat the words process too much, Ajit. Find different synonyms like methods, modes, means. Okay. Ryuk says, firstly, the milk is required in either traditional method or through pasteurization. Ryuk, good. Just watch your grammar a little bit. I corrected that. Pavan says, it is. Students, don't use contractions. Remember, you have to spell out the words. So Pavan, it is clear that cheese can be initially processed either by traditional or standardized methods for coagulation. Good, Pavan. Okay, that's a nice sentence. For coagulation. Hassan says, first and foremost, most cheese making is done through pasteurization, whereas the traditional way is directly through coagulation. Okay? And again, students, if you can't write it in one sentence, write it in two. Okay? Simplify. Don't let these diagrams freak you out. Don't be like, oh, it's too complicated. I'm freaking out. Okay? Just take it easy. Simplify the information. Sugandika says, in the first step, raw milk is either pasteurized or in the traditional method, it is coagulated. And following in this process, enzymes and microorganisms are added. Good. Marasa, always follow your leading expression with a comma. Initially, comma, the raw milk is either pasteurized through most cheese making, then combined with microorganisms and enzymes, or directly condensed via the traditional process. Nice, Marasa. That's what I mean. Your writing is becoming fantastic these days. Just watch you're just making small grammar mistakes, Marasa. Just watch for those, review for those, okay? All right, Pavan, I'm glad you're picking up on that. All right, Siraj Subedi says, at the onset, raw milk can either be passed through pasteurization followed by filtration, comma, as in most cheese making, comma, or can directly be used in coagulation in the traditional method. Siraj, good. Students, watch your comma use, okay? So watch those additive definitions, those commas, all right? It's very important. Ajit says, in both methods, enzymes are an important factor for curdling. Indeed, Ajit. I don't think cheese will curdle on its own without those enzymes. Okay, good. Gulnaz says, firstly, raw milk is whether pasteurized and standardized or in. Gulnaz, let me correct that. So, Gulnaz, firstly, whether raw milk is pasteurized and standardized or used in the traditional method, It is coagulated through the use of enzymes and microorganisms. Okay, let me write that option 2 for you students so that you can see so this is using either or. Okay, let me show you this first step using whether or. Initially, whether cheese is made in the traditional method or through pasteurization and standardization, it ends up in a tub mixed with enzymes and microorganisms in order for coagulation to commence. Okay, so that would be the whether or scenario. All right, have a look at both of them. Okay, so initially raw milk is either pasteurized and standardized, or in the traditional method it's directly used in coagulation. In both cases, microorganisms and enzymes are added to help the curdling process. Now here's an alternative using whether or. Initially, whether cheese is made in the traditional method or through pasteurization and standardization, it ends, because it's singular, up in a tub mixed with enzymes and microorganisms in order for coagulation to commence. Okay, so that would be the whether or scenario as opposed to either or. Okay. All right. Both are fine. Okay. Both work well. Whether or, either or, really nice use of correlative conjunctions help you bump up those band scores. All right, let's keep going. So enough on that first step. Okay. So what happens next? Here's coagulation. Curds and whey. It's the two products that come out. And then there's cutting, stirring, and cooking. Ooh, ha, interesting. All right. So cutting, stirring, and cooking. Then there's the curds. The curds are sent to milling, draining, or whey. All right. So put some of that together. Do your best. Again, you can start and stop your sentences where you feel appropriate. There's no one perfect method for this. All right. So I'll continue with this as well. Okay. Remember, curds and whey. So these are the products that result. So careful when you're interpreting the diagram. So the milk, the raw milk, through this curdling process becomes what's called cheese curds and whey. Those are the two products of the milk. So careful, you no longer have milk here. You have to change your vocabulary. All right? Hope that's clear. Okay, so I'll write that sentence. So it's cutting and stirring and cooking. Trying to see if somebody can advance me here. Okay. Go ahead of me. A little time so you're not just influenced by my ideas. Okay, let's see what you end up with. Vanessa says, then the curdled milk goes through a cutting process and is stirred and cooked at the same time. Okay, Vanessa, nice. When the process of coagulation is complete, the milk is transformed into curd and whey, which is then cut, stirred, and cooked. NA, really nice composition. I like yours more than mine, NA. Actually, that is a very, very nice, clear description there. So NA says, when the process of coagulation is completed, the milk is transformed to curd and whey, which is then cut, stirred, and cooked. Fantastic. By who? Probably by people, but we don't know that because we don't see it in the diagram. Okay. All right. Let's see who else has written about this. Marasa says, after this, the two products are obtained, curds and whey, which are then passed for cutting as well as cooking, or passed through cutting and cooking. Good. Okay. Ryuk, a little bit awkward. Rethink that. Hassan says, next, the substance goes through extra stages of cutting, stirring, and cooking, and it's put into a tub for further processing. Okay, Hassan, good, but instead of saying substance, name the substances. There are two of them, curds and whey. Okay. Sugandika says the raw milk then is converted into curds and whey. Cutting and cooking methods are applied before the next milling process, whereby the whey is drained out. Okay, all right, Sugandika, not bad. So after the milk is transformed into curds and whey, cutting and cooking are applied before moving these products to the next tub, where whey is drained away from the curds, right? So draining of whey away from the curds. Okay, good. So we're here in the process. We're in the milling and salting stage. Okay, so the milling machine, the salting machine, and then we have fresh cheese, cottage and cream cheese. Yum, yum. Okay, so you have these cheeses, and then you have molds. So again, you have this kind of either or scenario. Anytime you have this splitting in the process, you need to think either or, whether or. So if you used whether or in the beginning, use either or now. If you used either or, then maybe choose a different phrasing to express this, okay? All right. Jaskaran, welcome. I see that you've picked our second level of membership. Make sure to send me an email, Jaskaran, so I can hook you up with your perks. All right, students, so let's get into describing this stage in the making of cheese. Okay, so this curds, milling, salting, fresh cheese, or pouring into the molds. All right, let's go to that step. Notice the use of connecting expressions here. Okay, I'm not going to give you this right away. I want you to tell me what this is. So you can often see this. What is this piece of object here? So what is this piece of the machine called? Okay, so the curds are falling out of the, or going down the milling machine here. All right, this is called a chute. So the curds go down this milling chute. And what is this called? It's a good piece of vocabulary to know. Very good, Pavan. It's a conveyor. And he says very cleverly, it's a conveyor belt. Good. So what are the curds doing here on the conveyor belt? How do I describe that? Okay, it's called a conveyor belt. That's the accurate English here. So conveyor belt. Convey means, convey is also a verb. So know the verb convey. Conveyor belt is the object here. So what are the Kurds doing here? What's the right statement in English here? The Kurds are... It's not too difficult, Varvara. You just have to practice it. It's not passing. They're not really passing here. They're doing what? Keep it simple. They're not sliding over. They're moving along. Okay, very good. Yeah, so don't overcomplicate. Sugandhika says they're moving. Absolutely. So once the whey and curds are separated, the curds are milled and then salted as they move along a conveyor belt. Okay? It's not too bad. You just have to practice it. So this is the sentence that describes this. Once the whey and curds are separated, the curds are milled and then salted as they move along a conveyor belt. And then, how would I describe this? Okay, so how would I describe this scenario here? Okay, so we have the curds coming down the milling chute, falling onto the conveyor belt. They're moving along the conveyor belt. They're salted as they move along the conveyor belt. And then here, how would I explain this scenario here? What are some good expressions? Baral says transferred, maybe. How do I connect here? Okay, what's the connection? How do I make this nice and cohesive so I can get those high band scores? This is, keep it simple again, this is the start of the conveyor belt. This is the drop is okay. So yeah, the conveyor belt fills the pouring molds, right? Yeah, so NA says the curds are coming off from the conveyor belt. It's not bad. Or reach the end, right? This is the end. If that's the start of the conveyor belt, that's the end of the conveyor belt. And you reach the end of the conveyor belt, okay? So this is what I would write. Again, there are many different ways to do this, but this is what I would write. So as the salted curds reach the end of the conveyor belt, of the belt, or conveyor belt, they are used in either making fresh cottage and cream cheese, or poured into molds for further processing. Okay, so that's how I would write it. Let me do a little bit of cleaning here. Have to have a very sanitary and clean environment when you're making cheese. Cheese is easy to spoil if you have all this gunk on the board. I'm just kidding. All right, so here we go. Once the whey and curds are separated, the curds are milled and then salted as they move along a conveyor belt. Notice how here I use the word milled as a verb, and this here is the milling. It's the ing form here. You can often use these as verbs. So these machines and the names of machines and the text that you see here defines the verb that is applied, the action in that process, okay? Sairahoti Boini is asking, is this important for the IELTS? Yes, Sairahoti Boini, This is a task 1 process essay. You can get a diagram like this, a diagram question like this in your academic IELTS task 1. If you're a general IELTS student, no, you will not see a question like this. For that, you will see letter writing, okay? So just to be really clear. So NA says, at the end of the conveyor belt, the salted curds are separated either into cottage and cream cheese or transferred to molds for the next process. NA, very good. That works perfectly. Okay. Sulav Sapkota says, after the separation of curds, it is passed through a milling machine and then salted as they move along a conveyor belt. At the end of the conveyor belt, the salted cheese is either used for making cottage and cream cheese or poured into molds for further processing. Salav, good. Okay, that's some nice writing there. All right. Okay, so now we're here in the press. So you have the pressing machine, and the curds are pressed into their final forms of this round cheese, put onto shelves for ripening, and then finally we have the end product, which is ripened cheese. And then here, there's also maybe some draining of the additional whey. Again, students, keep within the 20-minute time frame when you're doing this, okay? You might not need to write all of these details, just the key points. And again, there are different ways to do this, so I'm going to take the initiative, okay? So the molds move along a second conveyor belt where a press gives the cheese its final round form. These rounds of cheese are then stacked onto shelves and ripened with the passage of time. Okay, all right. So I'm at roughly about 170, 180 words right now. And if I want to make sure that I get that band 9, then I can write a summary here. Okay, and the summary should be a little bit different than what I wrote in the overview. Now, some students are like, really? Do I need a summary? Yes, you do, especially if you're going for that band 9. In summary, the making of cheese, and you'll see why, because there is usually a good summary that you can include, okay? So in summary, the making of cheese is a complex process, and it becomes evident that different products are produced at various stages from the raw milk, including curds, whey, cottage and cream cheese, as well as ripened cheese. Okay, so I just kind of ripped through that summary because I wanted to show you what a band 9 level student would do. Okay, so if I were to sit the IELTS exam tomorrow and I was aiming for that band 9, I guarantee you that this is exactly how I would finish this task 1 essay. And notice that it didn't really take me all that long. It only took me about 30 seconds to come up with this summary. And it wasn't that difficult because after writing all of the different elements of this process, I did realize that, hey, wait a second, I have curds and whey, I have cottage and cream cheese, I have cheese rounds. So yes, this is a long process, but we're not really just making one kind of cheese here. In fact, we're making several different products throughout. So Baral is asking, is a summary needed in a graph also? Yes, if you want a band 8, band 9, I highly suggest a good summary. Okay. Wow is asking, the summary cannot be our own opinion, right? No. Task 1 is an expository essay, so you cannot include your own opinion. Yeah, this is not a persuasive essay, so it is really inappropriate to put your own opinion into task 1. Do not write an opinion. Okay. Aman, it's not compulsory to write a summary, but again, if you want a high band score, like you're going for a band 8, 9, I strongly suggest a summary. Okay. All right. And you'll see that the essay is just much more complete with a summary. Okay. So here we go. Let's read this from start to finish. Again, students, I will also post this essay on our YouTube community bulletin board. Let's read through it. So this process diagram, read with me. Okay, read with me. This process diagram depicts the roughly 12 different steps involved in the manufacturing of cheese. Immediately, it can be deduced that the making of cheese on an industrial scale requires milk, microorganisms, salt, machine, and time. Initially, whether cheese is made in the traditional method or through pasteurization and standardization, it ends up in a tub mixed with enzymes and microorganisms in order for coagulation to commence. Commence is a fancy way of saying start. After the milk is transformed into curds and whey, cutting and cooking are applied before moving these products to the next tub where the whey is drained away from the curds. Once the whey and curds are separated, the curds are milled and then salted as they move along a conveyor belt. As the salted curds reach the end of the conveyor belt, they are used in either making fresh cottage and cream cheese or poured into molds for further processing. The molds move along a second conveyor belt where a press gives the cheese its final round shape or form. These rounds of cheese are then stacked onto shelves and ripened with the passage of time. In summary, the making of cheese is a complex process, and it becomes evident that different products are created. I don't want to say produced, because products produced, it's a little bit awkward, so created is better. At various stages from the raw milk, including curds, whey, cottage, and cream cheese, as well as ripened cheese. That would be your band 9 task 1 diagram essay. Students, you can get a lot more of these videos in HD, as well as original practice exams and fully interactive course for your phone, tablet, PC with app support. Join our premium package, aehelp.com for academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. Again, you can get our premium package today by the coupon code BLKFDAY, Black Friday. It's a 40% discount. It's our best savings of the year. That's it for today. Just Karan Singh, thank you for becoming a member of our channel. Send me an email so I can hook you up with your perks. That's awesome. I look forward to having you in class. This is my email, again, for our new members. Have an awesome rest of your Friday, and I hope you will have a fantastic weekend. One more class tomorrow at 15 o'clock Central European Time. That will be the speaking section, part 1. Keep up the good work. You're all brilliant, beautiful people. Remember that. Much love to all of you. Bye for now.